made a tremendous impression on the global economy, especially those of BRIC countries. A veteran banker, Mr. Kamath served as the CEO and the chairman of ICICI Bank in one of its most crucial and development stages, and the impact he's made, not just in banking, but in development of human resources, in his special impact with women and the women leadership that has emerged under his care. Mr. Kamath has also been the chairman of Infosys, and in fact, he's associated with FICCI's Greater 50 mission as a patron. Mr. Kamath, I want to thank you for all the multiple sessions you've had with us as FICCI, and for the methodology in which you shared, you guided. He's also helped us shape the proposal that we have given to the BRICS New Development Bank for funding of women under the BRICS Women's Alliance, which I had the pleasure of leading last year. Mr. Kamath helped us shape that proposal, and we're looking to bring in capital from BRICS into development of women. So, Mr. Kamath, thank you so much for so many tremendous contributions and participations with FICCI. I'm going to continue to just say, Mr. Kamath, we want to congratulate you on your appointment as the chairman of the NaBFID. There could be no better person than you to really take charge of this new development finance institution. And I'm sure that the bank will, and the institution will truly, it's like a homecoming for you, coming from your leadership of ICICI Bank and the creation of this new fund. We've been hearing from the morning, friends, this entire and beautiful dialogue on celebrating Amrit Mahotsav and the completion of 25 years since independence. We're aiming to become a $5 trillion economy in the next few years, and we're working towards an Atmanirbhar Bharat, a self-reliant nation. And as we wish to be in the lead of developed and most prosperous nations by the time we celebrate India's centenary. Our journey towards these goals has truly already begun with solid foundations, and I think in the last 12 months, we have seen India's overall, I won't call it stock, but I believe respect among nations has truly gone up on multiple counts. So with this solid foundation, a supportive policy framework, we now are looking for access to capital to support expansion of the economy. And this is where the newly established NaBFID is expected to play a truly important role. So we have here in this session a chance to discuss with the new chairperson on how he is visualizing this paving the way for sustained infrastructure development in our country, which is truly critical. So let's begin our conversation with Mr. Kamath. Once again, good afternoon, Mr. Kamath. I'm going to jump straight into questions. And we all know that India has a history of development finance institutions, IDBI, and you have really helmed one of the most significant ones after Mr. Babu. Now that we have once again felt the need for these specialized institutions looking at long-term financing, especially infrastructure, I just wanted to ask you, how are you visualizing the setting up of this bank? You are the founding chairman of the bank, and how similar do you think it will be to the earlier institutions, and how do we make sure that the NaBFID will remain a viable entity? So we'd love to hear your opening thoughts and your views on this, Mr. Kamath.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Good day to all. It's FICCI. Answer to your question is straightforward. One is that we are at a different place at different times where we are today. When in 1996, development banks came under pressure. Really saying is the economy is now open. It's a market-driven economy. Understanding of the need for vast amount of infrastructure. The constraint that we see is appropriate structured capital. There is long-term capital which is required by infrastructure. Whereas commercial banking system is able to provide shorter dated paper for funding. One question that you asked is the sustainability of this institution. So what was the pressure that the primarily, they face pressure because of the opening up of the economy and I would say the disturbance that was caused to corporate India at that point. If I keep that aside, even bigger pressure was a lack of funding. Lack of funding, why? Because these institutions borrowed money from the marketplace on the back of a government guarantee, and that was counted as SLR securities for banks and other institutions to support the state. That window was withdrawn, maybe correctly so, because the government wanted the institutions to put in the market. The problem was the market was not deep enough at that point in time. Who could be the market for a development bank to raise money from? That market typically consists of pension players, insurance players, and fraud. The Development Bank is in the 1990s. This market is a very nascent market. The growth that we have seen in the last few years, the dramatic growth in this area was not there. But today, 20-25 years later, we have a very vibrant insurance pensions business, and that is growing at a, I would say, a rapid pace, here and there our aspirations are where we will grow. So funding this time is going to be completely different from last time. And we are operating in a marketplace which is open. So lastly, we have recognized the need for infrastructure of all sorts. So funding becomes feasible, funding, long-term funding is required, so there is demand. We think we can raise money. Just one other point the government has made is that this institution should also look at innovative instruments in addition to just long-term loans. So we have no constraints in constructing the type of instruments that our borrowers might look for.
So thank you, Mr. Kamath. And I was at this point of time wanting to ask you, from your experience in Shanghai with the new development bank versus this one, which one of those lessons will you take? How will you structure this differently? How do you see the role of other pension funds, the capital markets, all leading into the investment requirement of our country, which is quite significant?
I think I'm drawing lessons from both my past experience with FICCI and the experience in the big bank. The past experience with FICCI clearly, one leap out of that is very important, and that leap is in terms of getting the right technology for the bank. It is current technology. I think that is critical. You can do it at a very effective cost. I use the word low cost. Effective technology can be put in place very quickly and scaled very quickly. So that lesson we have learned. Other lesson that we learned was that you can run these institutions very lean just now, given all the development that has taken place compared to what we did in the past. Other lessons are from India. I think my experience as working on the expert committee on restructuring of projects that was done immediately past wave 1 by the Reserve Bank. That what I've learned is that there are a whole lot of enablers today in place. Not only the rating companies, but there are a whole lot of techno-economic people who can evaluate and review. So if we draw the skills of all the agencies plus your own skills, I mean, you can very quickly set up an institution which can be on a very firm foundation. So lessons from everywhere in terms of what you have observed, what you have learned, what is doable. I think India is a fit-for-purpose institution, leveraging technology, lean, quickly to market.
So that's perfect, and we're sure you're going to do that, Mr. Kamath, because we know how much you did in the early digitalization of ICICI, your experience in Wipro and your ability to lead that, plus your experience and exposure in Shanghai. So we're looking forward to a lean, just-in-time, large impact, very digital institution under your guidance. Very exciting times ahead. But it leads me to my next question, Mr. Kamath, which is really, we aspire to be a $5 trillion economy, and we have to make this happen. India needs to spend about 7 to 8% of our GDP on infrastructure annually, which is roughly about $200 billion. And then we have the very promising, much needed and super ambitious national infrastructure pipeline, which is about $1.4 trillion. And we all know that your NaBFID is going to play a very crucial role in this roadmap. Can you share with us how you're thinking about the acceleration of the national infrastructure pipeline, the role that the bank will play, what are your other sources of capital? And I know with the government backing, you do have adequate capital now, but will you be raising some other funds? Can you share some of those thoughts?
I think to put it in context, I have a vision that was outlined by the finance minister in the last budget. Vision, if I were to summarize, was to say that we'd like to see a lending of 3 lakh to 4 lakh crores from this institution over the next 3 years or so. So in a way, what we need to aspire for is that it is always good when you do that because you can then aim very quickly rather than trying to figure out. To me, this is only a catalyst for the institution. I'm sure that there will be others who will then also come into now the challenge here is to make sure that you have the right instruments of the tenor that investor wants at the right price available. And who could be the people providing this? And I see several places that provide this. We have no constraints in accessing domestic markets. I would think our primary source is the domestic capital markets. And the preliminary calculation indicates the capital that we have, the grant that we have, is sufficient to raise the sort of numbers that the finance minister could have an aspiration number. From domestic market, capital market players, primarily, as I said, pension funds and insurance funds. However, very interesting, this institution also can borrow money abroad. And the government has put in a very interesting and I say very attractive package for it. The set up this institution could raise money with a government guarantee, and the guarantee is also something like 10 basis points, 1/10% guarantee, which makes it extremely competitive for this institution to raise money almost a sovereign market. And I would think that the global enterprises are already ready with funding proposals. We are ready to be approached. I have previously discussed all of them. All of them are ready. So we have 3 primary sources. One is domestic capital market, global capital market, and then the funding sources through the multilateral institutions globally. So I think funding is not going to be a constraint. Consuming capital is not going to be a constraint. And we will have to see how quickly we meet the objective and aspiration that have been articulated. And then think of next plans. Next plan also in a way is outlined in the Act. That this institution could dilute equity as well. And then the need to bring money from other parties. And that could provide the purpose as well. So I think it was a very well constructed Act to meet the aspirations going forward. I think the right team that we will plan to have will be able to execute this well.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath. That is so reassuring. And I do want to share with you that last year, in our multiple meetings with the finance minister, this ability to fund infrastructure, the realization that every rupee going into infrastructure actually fuels 200 other industries, has its impact on GDP growth, was something we continuously shared, and FM has been extremely supportive of this. So we're all very excited, and now we get even more excited when we hear you talk about the availability of capital, the roadmap of further capital growth. So we have another question in this regard, and that is, will the fund, the bank, focus primarily on aspects under the National Infrastructure Pipeline, or will you also cover soft infrastructure, education, a little bit more selfish question, healthcare? What are your views on other aspects of funding?
I think we need to have an open mind in this regard, and our capital should flow to those areas which are most in need. Let me define what is most in need. So the ambiguity. Most in need in the sense that we have a particular skill to tailor, let's say, tenor, long-dated instruments for a particular sector. It needs it. There could be other sectors which do not need that long a tenor. Could be shorter tenors. There could be other players in the market who would fund this. Now, they could say there is a way impounding funds available, and the funds are not sufficient. He come in and we provide longer-dated funds to these sectors. Then funds are shorter-dated funds, appropriately tailored funds, could be available for the software sector. However, if there is a software sector which requires very long maturity, the type of funds we could provide, certainly there is no constraint in our providing assistance. So yes, we could provide funds under our umbrella to a wide variety of.
So perfect. Then my key takeaway.
It is not necessarily definition. It should be hard.
So my key takeaway from that is, I said thank you. My key takeaway from that is a large amount of funds, open to multiple sectors, and open to different methodologies. So one of the things, we have a large number of people in the audience, many who are in infrastructure, and many who are facing the day-to-day realities of implementing large projects. So one of the questions they wanted really answered from you, Mr. Kamath, is besides the routine vanilla lending, would you be helping or creating innovative instruments in what is, I think, one of the biggest tools in large projects, and that is the whole aspect of bank guarantees? Because they're given bank guarantees for 5,000, 10,000 crore projects, they implement these over a period of 2 to 3 years, the guarantees remain stuck. Are you thinking of something new or innovative to help them free up those guarantees to roll over for their next projects?
I think, again, a very relevant and timely question. I can fully understand the members are concerned with this. I will say this, that we have no constraints. And specifically in that, there is a reference to guarantees and enhancements and various types of new instruments. So I will make sure that the team will start engaging very quickly with players to understand their needs. So we will have to be a need-driven organization. And you mentioned that we will lock up to try to see how we, as I said, about providing longer dated instruments. So certainly we will be open to talk to members as we wish.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath. That's really reassuring, and everybody here is so happy to hear that you will be, talking to multiple people about as you do this. But we didn't expect anything less from you or anything different. The other one which I wanted to ask you is really about the important development index of the gross fixed capital formation. We all know that China in its heady growth phase had almost a 40% of the GFCF. In India, at around 2009, we came as close to 30%, but have steadily dropped, and in 2021, I think it was 20%. And the bigger issue also for industry is that the capacity utilization is gone from about 75% to almost 65% now. How are you viewing this in light of the access to capital, the overall GDP growth? Is there a strategy? Because I know you're a banker and an economist at heart. So would you share your thoughts on this?
Thank you. I will address it in the following manner. Let me first address the issue of capacity utilization. Capacity utilization, partly because of what was happening, what happened last year. But if you see 2019 also, capacity utilization was dropping.
Yes.
I would think that we will now see momentum. And I will explain why we will see momentum in capacity utilization. And beyond capacity that is being created, I think we are now blessed. Because of strong cash flow, strong balance sheet for corporate India, we can create new capacity out of their own internal accruals. And compared to the 4 or 5 years it took up to set up new capacity 25 years back, you now do it in a year or so. So on that side, I don't think we have to worry about either about capacity utilization or creation of new capacity. The question would be, how will this capacity get utilized? I think there are new drivers coming into the system which we are not factoring in. Those are the entire digital economy. Because in the next 25 years, we will be driven by two, I would say, core drivers. One is infrastructure and one is the digital economy. Manufacturing is already in place just to use its cash accruals to grow. So most funding will have to be concentrated on these two areas, infrastructure and